Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Stories from Billy That. I know many of you have been amazed by the logo that opens each of our videos. That animation of me in my bandana, glasses, and goatee signing Billy That. Well, the designer of that animation is here with me today.
Hi, hello everyone.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Malachi.
I wanted to interview Malachi, ask her a few questions, also take some time to talk about how this whole thing started, how we met, where her creativity and fertile imagination comes from, the various businesses that she's currently setting up. And then I want to close with an explanation of how she came up with the animation for Billy That. Okay, here we go. All right. I'll be curious to see your recollection of this story. My perspective might be different. Do you remember how we first met?
Yes, I do remember the first time we met. I was in elementary school and I remember playing a stuck-up character that was really picky about her potty. That was my first play with you directing and I really enjoyed doing that character. That was a big deal for me because I was living in a small town and the school had a program for deaf children that focused on speaking and lip reading. They didn't allow ASL. I had a lot of struggles there, so when Billy showed up proudly using ASL, I was so excited about ASL and gratified immensely.
A little bit of context. Back at that time, I was working for the Seattle Children's Theater. My brother and I had established a theatrical program for deaf children called the Deaf Youth Drama Program, or DYDP for short. The program ran for 14 years. And it just so happened at that time that Malachi's mother was learning to sign. After realizing her baby was deaf, she was trying to figure out what options she had to go about raising Malachi. Well, she attended a workshop I was giving, and as a result, she heard of our drama and outreach program. I would go to different parts of Washington and do an artist in residency program. I'd stay at the location for a week or two and create a short play with the students. Now, I'd work with students who were deaf as well as those who could hear, regardless of background or language. The only thing I insisted on was that I be allowed to use ASL when teaching, because A, it's my language, and B, I wanted the students to see a proud deaf role model. So Malachi's mother brought me to their school in Ephrata. It's a small town in the middle of nowhere. It's the kind of town where if you blink, you've missed it. Now, the school used a program that's called the oral method, which emphasizes speaking and lip reading at the expense of ASL. Being deaf, Malachi had to work really hard just to try and communicate that way. The school supported a system of communicating that takes signs from ASL, which is a distinct and separate language, and contorts them into English word order. They did this because they believed ASL was inferior to English, and they couldn't be bothered to actually learn the language because they claimed successful deaf people only used English. Well, Malachi's mother brought me in. I stayed at the school for the week. We set up the short play, and at the end of the week, the cast performed for the entire student body. Needless to say, everyone was blown away. Here I was, an intelligent, articulate deaf man, communicating in ASL and incorporating everyone, deaf or not, to collaborate in this event. In the end, we all gave a fantastic, terrific show. A few years later, Malachi and her family moved to a different town, Wenatchee. There she attended another deaf program. Once again, Malachi's mother brought me into the school, and I did another one-week residency program. Malachi was a few years older by this time and took part in it again. You know, to be honest, the first time I saw Malachi, I was struck by her fierce, independent spirit and her long curls bouncing as she did her thing. She was just a
Yeah,
baby.
about
Well,
that
not really a
age.
baby. You were, what, 5, 6? Yeah. She was so smart, sassy, tenacious, wouldn't take no for an answer. I was really, really impressed. Ever since, I've watched from afar And she still has all
Aw,
those same
thank you.
traits. Truly a beautiful person. Several years later, Malachi and her family moved again, this time to Edmonds in Washington, and she attended yet another deaf program. And again, my program, DYDP, came and was involved for several years. You were in the
Maybe. I
program,
can't
what,
remember
2-3
exactly.
times? We had several artist in residency programs, and so over time, obviously, we've gotten to know each other quite well.
Yep, indeed.
I've watched her grow into an astonishing, amazing, wonderful young woman who is very
Oh,
creative.
thank you.
Okay, now, I remember way back when I came to visit for the first time, I saw some of the things you had drawn. You started drawing when you were really young, right?
Yes, I was
Yeah,
very
could you
young
elaborate
then.
on that?
I remember when I was very young, the first time I picked up a pencil, I started doodling, and ever since, I was constantly drawing. My stack of drawings gradually piled up. I've saved them all, put them in binders, stacks of binders, and I've looked back at them. I like looking at my drawings. Now I'm so engrossed into my art, I've never stopped. It gives me immense pleasure.
And when you got older, you started branching out into different art forms, right?
Yes.
Yeah, like what?
Yes,
Can you
several
give us some
different art
examples?
forms. Well, when I was younger, I focused mostly on painting and drawing, hands-on type of work. Now I'm transitioning into technology. I still do hands-on work, but I'm more into using technology. That's the contemporary thing now. I've not learned all the newest techniques that are out there, and I want to keep learning. I want to be constantly doing new things. That gives me pleasure.
And when you say new, you mean technology like the computer,
Yes,
right?
the computer, the iPad, smartphone, a varied use of all the technology available today.
Wow. Yeah, I've noticed a trend with the younger generations. They're so creative and able to use technology so well. Malachi's a perfect example of that. Also, can you give some more specific examples of the business end of your endeavors? Like the creative outlets that you're getting into, what are you doing with all of that?
My ultimate goal is to show my specific field how I channel my creativity, expressing my inner processing, so that people can see my works of art. I have two business endeavors, both share many of the same attributes, a creative outlet, freely and expressively radiating outward to the world my art.
What kind of art? Cosmetics? Something else?
The two business endeavors, one involves cosmetic beauty industry. I have an affiliation with a company called Senegence Makeup. I specialize more in experimental makeup, a more visual, colorful approach as opposed to usual standards. How to be more colorful, play with the eyeshadows, that's my specialty. I also teach and tutor my clients how to apply makeup. For deaf people out there, and I also include hearing people as well, I make the makeup tutorials. My other business endeavor, I do handmade works from scratch. That business is called Maliki Artist. I sell my products on Etsy and promote through other venues as well. I do many different artistic expressions such as animation, graphic designs, crafts, for example. I've created these coasters here. And I use resin to make these. I also make and sell earrings, necklaces, rings. To be honest, I just go with the flow of creativity and make many new things. I see something online I like and I think to myself, I want to try that. And I make it myself and sell it. I have so many ideas in my head that I haven't completed, and I just have so much I want to pursue. That's my passion, my motivation for my business.
Yeah. And as you viewers already know, I'm a Deadhead. Big Grateful Dead fan.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Well, Malachi saw that and started asking me about it. Once I was telling her about it more, she got engrossed into that world as well. the culture of the Grateful Dead. So she started looking up Grateful Dead icons online. You know, the famous skulls and skeletons with the psychedelic colors. Well, she took all of those images and she turned them into these beautiful coasters for my wife and myself. They really are gorgeous. We'll show them to you in a little bit. Okay, now, let me check. Oh, right. Before we go on, you had also mentioned that while you have these creative pursuits, you're also now planning to go to college, right? Tell me more about that.
Yes, I had been going to a different college and decided to move back here closer to Washington. I wanted to transfer and go back to college to continue learning and developing my skill. And I will major in graphic design with an emphasis on technology to specialize more in that field. I want to continue learning more to study the field with the ultimate goal of earning my bachelor's degree. I want to advertise my skill in that area and to show the hearing world that, see, deaf people can do it, that I can prove I do have skills, regardless of how they may look down on the deaf, that I have skills, that I'm capable, and I'm very intelligent, and, I'm doing it. That's why I want to take more courses to continue growing my skills.
Well, that is the perfect segue into the next topic I'd like to discuss. I'd like to give you some statistics on deaf employment in the workforce. The statistics I'm going to present come from research that was undertaken back in, I believe, 2019. Give me just a second to pull up my data. See, Malachi, that's technology for you. Okay, here we go. So this report is entitled Deaf People and Employment in the United States 2019, published by the National Secondary... No, wait, that's not right. By the National Deaf Center on Post-Secondary Outcomes. Their research findings showed significant employment gaps that exist between deaf and non-deaf people. We call you hearing people. And this is despite an increase in the number of college enrollments and how many colleges now have programs for deaf students. These gaps still exist. So following these findings, statistics show that of deaf people ages 25 to 64, which includes both Malachi and myself, only 53.3% were employed in 2017, compared to 75.8% of hearing people. That's a significant gap. 22.5%. From 2008 to 2017, employment rates did not increase for deaf Americans at all.
Yep, that's unfortunate.
Deaf people are underrepresented in key job growth sectors such as healthcare. Employment and wage gaps further increase when taking into account such factors as race, ethnicity, gender, and disability. And this is a larger gap between deaf and hearing people. And get this, a whopping 42.9% of deaf people have opted out of the workforce entirely. That means they're relying either on Social Security disability insurance, which is a taxpayer-funded program, or possibly on their parents or something else. And that's more than double the rate of hearing people opting out, which was 20%. I'll post the link so that you can see the report and find out more in-depth information based on that research. It's a tragedy, isn't it?
Yes,
This has to
I
change.
agree, absolutely.
I want Malachi to have a better future, to be gainfully employed, to see all of her creative ideas, which are so beautiful, get utilized meaningfully and not see it go to waste. Now, finally, the part I've been waiting for. The logo for Billy That. How did that all come about? Oh, I should mention, by the way, that Malachi is my daughter now. Woo! Her mother, Jennifer, is now my wife. I'm so happy to have her as part of my family and to be part of her family as well. All of us as a family. She's deaf and I'm deaf. Woo! Back to when we were coming up with ideas to set up the Billy That company and getting our LLC, creating the website, all of those things. How did we come up with the idea of creating the animation for the Billy That logo? I was intrigued by the idea, if it even could be done. I'll let Malachi tell the story.
When they first asked me to design the logo for Billy That, I said sure. And then I started thinking about animating the logo and how cool that would be and to pull in the visual interest. So I asked them what they thought about animating the logo.
Oh, that sign you just used, what does that mean?
That's the sign I use for animation.
Oh, animation. Got it. Okay.
So I asked if they'd be interested, and they said, sure, go for it. I asked Billy to videotape himself signing the logo, as I wanted the representation to capture his personality. So I asked him to videotape himself.
Oh, let me interject. At the very beginning, she just wanted still pictures of me signing my name Billy and That, and then she drew pictures of me in those frozen positions so that the original logo was the picture with the signs Billy and That. It was alright, but then Malachi came up with the idea of turning it into an animated version. Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought people would be fascinated by that, so he sent me a video and I started drawing.
Excuse me for interrupting you repeatedly.
That's all right.
I felt so inept. She insisted on me wearing a white shirt and a white background behind me so that she could catch all of the details. But we don't have any white walls, so it took a while to figure out how to follow her directions. I hit upon the idea of hanging a white blanket over a rack and then filming myself on my knees for better positioning in front of my phone. I filmed myself signing Billy That several times and then sent it to her to see if it was good enough. She said it was, and now back to you, and I'll stop yapping.
I approved the video and I put it into a special program where I was able to pull each frame of Billy signing in sequence. It's called a GIF, a GIF. That's the process of changing the video to a GIF. Then I started drafting again and again and again and again, and I had the picture of Billy on a transparent sheet and traced the outlines, each of his facial expressions and movements. Then I removed the original and kept the drawing outlines in tight sequence. I say it took me all of maybe 1 or 2 days, depending on other commitments I had. I kept drawing until I felt it was a perfect transition, and then I pushed play to see if the movements were captured. The facial expressions and the movements, his tongue emerging, the signing positions. It was so cool. I sent it to them and asked him and my mom what they thought, and they were so jaw-dropping amazed. I wrapped it up with some final touch-ups, the background, etc., and checked with them again, and they were amazed by it. I was very happy they liked it. I enjoyed doing it, taking my time, having a lot of fun with it. It was a really cool thing.
Oh, yeah. It was beautiful. Such a gorgeous piece of art. My jaw was literally on the floor. And I'm so proud for several reasons. One, my daughter did that for me. And just so you know, we pay her for her work. I want to make sure that it's clear that you know that we've hired her and we pay her. It's very important to have skilled deaf artists out there in various fields. They're so talented, and it's so important that they're gainfully employed. So for that reason, I'm proud of her and that we were able to support her business as well.
That's right. Thank you.
Look for Malachi's work in future episodes of Billy That, and be sure to look for the links to her work. I'll provide those. Look for Malachi. That's her.